When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them on the road to the Philistine country, though that was shorter. For God said if they face war, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. So God led the people around by the desert road. They thought they were ready, but God knew they were not. So he leads them into a desert experience. The desert is a place where the important things become very clear. It's a place where what we think is important falls away to be replaced by things that truly are important to God. God wants to heal us and grow us, so he often takes us aside to a place where we are alone with him. This thought certainly warms the heart, but if we don't get what he's doing, we can be frustrated and scared beyond all reason. Now, the desert's not a bad place. That is, it's not meant to harm us. Anne Lamott wrote, "If you don't die of thirst, there are great blessings in the desert." So don't see the desert as a foreboding place to die of thirst and sunstroke. There's a lot of life in the desert. It's just different. The desert is the perfect place to remove the old mindsets that God wants to prune out of our lives. God does not change us by a miracle, but by deep transforming experiences that form him inside of us. This transformation ultimately leads us to a deeper ability to worship him and to know him. It's the transformation of a child's relationship with their parents to a mature adult. Nobody had ever really taken care of them before. They didn't know what might happen. We're often afraid of what lies ahead. We want the lessons of the desert without actually going through it. What does ready really mean? What could newly released slaves be ready for? They were not ready for war, that's obvious. But perhaps God saw that they were not ready to trust him yet, to rely on him. They were not ready to live as free people in community with each other. We don't know how to be free anymore. In many ways, known and unknown, we operate under a slavery mentality, not as free people. So God leads us into a desert experience. If we really want to live in a significant way and have God pleased to bless us, we need to change. And the best way to change is in the desert. For in the desert, one cannot continue to live the way he used to live, in town. If we choose to humble ourselves in the desert, we can begin to see things that really need to change within our hearts. It's there that God will speak. A deep heart evaluation cannot be done on our own. It needs to be in partnership with Yahweh and through interaction with other people. We shouldn't waste time with self-analyzing looks at our own miseries, but lift our hearts to God and let his light enlighten us. The desert shows us what God already knows is in our hearts. Deuteronomy 8:2 says, Yahweh led you all the way in the desert to humble you and test you in order to know what was in your heart, whether or not you would keep his commands. Do you know what's in the depths of your heart? You cannot unless you have been tried in the desert. The desert experience is intensely focused on the self, my fears, my insufficiencies, my weakness of faith in certain areas. But once I've been through the desert, I'm more focused on others and God's greatness. Perhaps most disturbing in this whole thing is the idea that God leads us down the desert road whether we want to go or not. Oftentimes, life forces us down a path we don't want to take, and there's nothing we can do about it except resign ourselves to it, set our noses straight ahead, and take what comes. When this happens, know that God is still on his throne, and he sees and he knows where you are. He's about to do something deep and abiding that will equip you for the next chapter in your life. Mother Teresa said, we cannot be renewed without the humility to recognize what needs to be renewed in ourselves. People who emerge from the desert are brave and strong. They have a deeper stability about them. They know God and can reveal him better to the rest of the world. Now, isn't that a goal worth pursuing at any cost? The only way to survive the desert and grow is in humility of heart. Accept what God is doing in your life, that he loves you and believes that you can be and do so much more.